Hey there everybody, this is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. I am making a video for you guys for a machine I recently came into. When I was making the video on industrial versus domestic vintage sewing machines, I showed all of you this. This is a Merrow Overlock machine, and it is it's a 3-thread, 1-needle or single needle version. They have the Merrow company, which is still in business, one of the few industrial sewing machine manufacturers left in the United States that manufactures here. They actually have been producing machines for a long time, and they have many different variations and many different models. But this particular one is one of the A series models. It's A-3DW-3. And I actually took the serial number off of it, which is on the plate that you see over here. I'll zoom in for you. And I actually went to the Merrow Company website, and they have incredible records that they keep. And I actually was able to put the serial number in, and they told me exactly when it was made. Well, they said approximately 1946 to 1947. So this would have been manufactured very shortly after the end of World War II. And it is incredible. If you've ever gone online, you'll see other people who have vintage industrial machines, including Merrow. There are a number of companies that make overlock machines. The Merrow company actually invented the overlock machine, and it's interesting because a lot of people who have home or domestic sergers, in the United States we often call overlock machines sergers. In other parts of the world they're just called overlocks. In industrial machines in the United States they're called overlocks, but the term serger has kind of stuck with people as far as the domestic versions. And of course, domestic overlock machines did not actually come into being in the United States, in North America, until the late 70s, early 80s approximately. And by the time they got here, the first ones were manufactured in Japan, and then later on, I'm talking about the home versions, they were later on manufactured in Taiwan and now China mostly. But in terms of industrial overlock machines, they still make them in the US, and in other parts of the world, companies make these. And if you go and researching online, you can find quite a lot of information about these machines. But this is the very first industrial machine I've ever bought for myself. I plan on keeping this machine after it's been overhauled, and I'm going to start working. I think I mentioned to all of you in one of my videos, I'm going to start tackling a sewing project. It's kind of an experiment. I have an interest in sewing home linens, and I'm going to try to do that, and this will be one of the machines that I will use to try to get some of that done. So we will see. I have quite a learning curve ahead of me, but that's how you learn. You get in there and you dive right in. So I wanted to show this to you. This is exactly as you see it is how I got it. I'll zoom up just a little bit here. Zoom up, tilt up, and then let's zoom back out. And it came with a thread spool stand and a light fixture. Still has an incandescent bulb in there. Everything I see here I believe to be original. And if we go down below, you will see that this machine has its original clutch motor. I kid you not. This motor, by all estimates, is the same age as the machine or close to it. Now keep in mind, even if we go with, let's say we go with 1947, what that means is not only is this machine 72 years old, but so is the motor. This is a clutch motor. Now the person who sold it to me demonstrated it and showed that it worked. Now it's possible that this motor has had maintenance at some point in its life. I can see where there was a new, I don't know if you guys can see this. I'll try to zoom in just a little bit more. There is a metal nut attached to a bolt there, where the motor mounts up to a bracket underneath the table, and that's new. So at some point it's been taken off. I don't know if the brushes were replaced or what kind of service it had. And of course, you see right to the right of there, I don't know how many of you have looked into the clutch motors, but clutch motors essentially work by having the motor spin, and the wheel there you see, or it's not really a pulley, there's a wheel attached to the motor on the left, and that spins, and then it's got some cork on the surface, and then as you push on the pedal below, it engages the pulley where the belt is attached, and it engages with that spinning wheel. So it's kind of like jumping on a merry-go-round, if you will. I have not decided yet if I'm going to keep this particular motor and use it indefinitely. I'm not sure. I'm contemplating that right now. If any of you have opinions on this, please feel free to share. Every one of you who have watched my videos, you know how passionate that I am about preserving things, about not throwing things away, and I certainly feel that way about my machines. Because this motor is an electrical device and it's 72 years old, I'm going to call, we have some local companies around here that rebuild or refurbish electric motors, and I'm going to get their opinion on that before I make a decision. I have options for what I might do in place of this motor, and it just amazes me that something manufactured, both the machine and the motor, that they could have lasted this long. It just floors me, you know. And of course the home and domestic machines that I've been used to restoring for the last, 9 years now, you know, they've lasted a long time as well. So it's just amazing and humbling to imagine that things were once manufactured to this level of quality. But when we're talking about electricity, I'm not sure that I want to continue using that motor, and I'm going to be getting some opinions from folks to see what they think before I decide what to do. And of course the machine has got to be overhauled and restored. I believe actually it was being used by someone who was the original owner of a lady in her 90s, had been using this machine. I don't know how long she had it. Most of these Merrow machines would have been used in garment factories, you know, in places where they were sewing and piecing things together. How long she owned it, I don't know, but it is just incredible to think that you have a machine of this quality that still works. And I believe it's time. It actually needs an overhaul, a full restoration. One of the things I've been telling you all is to check your sewing tables for things that might provide information on the history of the machine that you get. You may remember that when I was talking about provenance and preserving the heritage. Well, I checked, there's a drawer that hangs on this industrial table, and sure enough, it had a receipt in here, and it looks like the prior owner paid for some service. It says sharpen and align blades, clean and tune, and looks like pull or replace looper. And you can see what was paid. It looks like the total with tax and everything here was $92. Now, according to the date that I see here, it looks like this was done in 1990. Let's see. I don't actually see a date on here. So I can't really tell when this was done. Usually they'll put dates on here, but for whatever reason they didn't. In any case, who knows how long it's been, but they kept the receipt in here for the maintenance that had been done, and I thought, well, how cool is that? You know, I can actually, at least it gives me an idea of what had been done. Now, maintenance on an industrial machine like this would have been a lot more frequently performed when the machine was in a factory setting, because these machines were used a lot. In a home setting where the seller had it, they may have used it more intermittently, not unlike a domestic sewing machine. That doesn't mean it doesn't need maintenance, but it could be that it didn't need maintenance as often. But whenever I get a machine, I plan to do a full overhaul to make sure that everything is good to go before asking the machine to work again. It is 72 years old after all. But as many of you know, there are machines much older than this, both domestic and industrial, and it's just incredible that things were once engineered to a point that if they're maintained and if they're taken care of, my God, you can keep using them and using them, as long as you keep them within a certain specification. I just panned back so that you could see the table. And industrial tables come in different sizes. Some of them are quite deep, and I mean they're as deep or deeper than domestic tables. This particular one has a pretty common length for an industrial table, but it's actually not any deeper than a domestic table. So it was a little easier to get it to be transported. And I wanted to mention to you all, this particular industrial machine is an overlocker. It's not a particularly large machine or massively heavy, and that's simply because it's an overlock machine and how it was designed. But I wanted to point out that if you decide to purchase an industrial sewing machine, in addition to having a vehicle that you can fit it into, you're going to need help transporting it. You need help transporting even domestic machines. You can see a little, there's the Necky's table. I've got the Necky folded down right now. But you need a couple of people, to do this, and you really want to plan for getting help to move these. These are not, they're not lightweight. And that's good. You want that table to stay put. I don't want to suggest you can't do it, but be prepared to do some heavy lifting to get it moved. So this is again the Merrow. It's a 3-thread single needle machine, and I've been teaching you all how to thread some of the machines. I'm going to try to do more of that. I get people asking me if I can show how machines are threaded. But this will be a heck of a challenge because it's got 3 different threads, and I'm going to have to learn how to do that. So hopefully you guys can learn with me. Later on this summer, I hope to be able to get to this machine's restoration. That's a project I'm pushing into later on in the summer because I've got a number of home machines that I have for other people that I need to get ready. So anyway, if any of you have an overlock machine like this, let me know. Put it down in the comments. I'd be curious to see what you think. And it would be interesting to see what those of you who have home overlock machines or home sergers, I'd be curious to see what you may have paid for them, because getting a used industrial overlock machine can be kind of a cool thing, because you may find that the machine could cost less than a brand new plastic serger. Now, some of the new sergers have air and different features that can be helpful when you're trying to thread them, because threading an overlock machine is one of the most frustrating things that you can do. And any of you who have sergers, you know this. But you will get to see me hopefully later on in the summer. You will get to watch me struggle and we will see how it turns out. But I just wanted to give you all a little bit of a little more information on this. I sort of referred to this. But this is, again, my first industrial, and I'm really excited about it. And just trying to understand how an overlock machine works, and the fact that someone invented a machine that could do this is just phenomenal. It's very humbling when you look at these things and think, wow. And it's also worth pointing out, a lot of people think that overlock or serger machines are a relatively new invention, and they're not. But like many other features in home sewing machines, they were originally created and invented for industrials, and it was later on that some of those industrial machine types and features would be integrated into home machines. But anyway, just wanted to share that with you guys. I'm really excited about this. It's not a common machine to see used, but again, I had to travel a little bit to get it, but it was just I got it from someone who's probably had it most of her life, and I just needed to rescue this thing and see what happens. So I'm gonna restore it. I'm gonna be using it and learning some sewing techniques. Or at least that's my plan. And then I'll decide later on if I'm going to keep it or find a new home for it, because that's what I do with all my machines. I rescue them, give them the restoration and the maintenance and the TLC that they really deserve. And once they're ready to sew again, then finding people who need them, who need specific machines, and get them into their hands. So I appreciate you all watching so much. If you have any comments or any suggestions for me in terms of how I might approach both the overlock machine as well as that clutch motor down there, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Just share them down there in the comments section below, and watch out for the next video. Thanks, folks.